There's your spin. There's your spin. You guys have no idea how much annoyance that is that I have to incorporate that spin. I just did that like 4 times. But anyway, what I'm going to do today is going to be a little weird. I'm going to reference my own podcast. Bear with me. Regardless if it was talked about on my own podcast, I do feel like the conversation is needed because of who it came from. For those of you who don't know, I'm part of the Iron Lords podcast. I'm the co-host. And this week we had Dustin over there from IGN. And when we talked, I kind of brought up whether or not, Microsoft buying another huge publisher is on the table. Let's pop over here and you guys can listen. Dustin, how bad would the salt be if in 6 months they announced they bought Square Enix? Xbox does.
Oh, if they bought Square, I mean, that would be interesting. I think they're going to buy Take-Two, though.
Take-Two.
God. Wait, you think Sony's going to buy Take-Two?
You heard it here first.
No. Microsoft.
Microsoft.
Sony
Take-Two.
probably could afford Take-Two. I just don't
Hold on, let me hear this.
the money up front.
Grand Theft Auto's on xCloud right now. It's back on it's on Game Pass, right? Yeah. So like that relationship has been going for a while now. They did that little test the water with Game Pass back in the day where it was on there for like a day and then off, and now they're back at the table. It's really interesting timing. Like the day the FTC loses. Grand Theft Auto 5.
Can you make real quick. So you can make the same argument about Sega games. Like almost every Sega game's on Game Pass at this point.
Yeah.
It was Yakuza. They had like the whole collection on there for months. Again, look at the paperwork that we have access to now. They were having conversations about having that purchase. So maybe that was like testing the waters again. Who knows who's going to come back to the table now that this whole thing is cleared, now that they know Microsoft is here to play.
That's all pretty much you guys have to see. I'll put it in the comment section below if you guys want to go actually watch the video. All right, look. I don't want to burst anyone's bubble. And, Dustin might be 100% right on this. I'm not 100% sure if there's even a possibility that a huge purchase like this could be done. But at the same time, we gotta be real. The amount of Microsoft barely winning this Activision Blizzard King thing is serious. And I don't think people, put that into perspective. There is a realm where this doesn't go through. And it looks really bad on Phil Spencer. Looks really bad on Microsoft. They waste a lot of money. Now, I'm not saying that Microsoft would never go through with one of these big publishers again. I just don't know if the world would let it go. Activision Blizzard King, let's say that closes. Why, if this barely goes through, and maybe it was all logistics in the end. Maybe we think that this deal was always on the verge of collapsing, but in terms of like the legal system, it went exactly the way the lawyers at Microsoft envisioned, and that is what happened in the end. It ended up getting passed, and if you really think about it, the only thing is time, well thought of statements, contracts put in place to show good faith that you're not just going to yank off some of these games from Game Pass. Maybe that's it, but I feel like people was very open to a conversation of Activision buying, being bought by Xbox. I don't know if they would have that same energy if you went in, and especially if it happened like the next 6 months to a year, which later on the podcast, Dustin kind of gave it a little bit of that timeline. Go back to the same judge and say, look, we bought Activision Blizzard King, and we doing these constellation. We just want to make the gaming industry better. And those same people that are saying, look, we don't think this is being a monopoly to some degree. We think this is good for the consumers. I find it hard to believe that Microsoft buying another key component when it comes to, publishers in the gaming industry, and then buying another one, especially with a title such as like GTA 6. Imagine if that was in Game Pass day and date. I don't know if the same commissions would be okay with that. Now, I might be wrong. I might 100% be wrong. But to me, in general, it's going to be a smaller cap before anyone. They're going to have a title or a publisher that delivers stuff that Microsoft needs, but isn't big enough to start a bunch of waves. That's why I think Sega is definitely one of those people, because even though they have huge stakes in almost every market you could think of, they're not at Take-Two. They're not an Activision. They're not a EA or a Ubisoft. You know, they have a lot of coverage in the industry, and they cover a lot of genres in the industry. But nothing Sega has is to the degree that if it was took off PlayStation, nothing is like a Call of Duty. There's games there that would be devastating if you took off PlayStation, but nothing there is going to have a big enough effect like Call of Duty did to have the Trade Commission really have that conversation. Now, 2K, if you Take-Two, obviously 2K goes with it. There is a lot. Like even just Rockstar by itself, taking GTA 6 and putting it in Game Pass would be hugely devastating to PlayStation in a lot of different degrees. And it's not just the GTA 6. It's on top of that, you got to look at it from, Call of Duty's still going in Game Pass day and date. Anything they're doing forward's going on Game Pass day and date. EA Play is still on Game Pass. It would be a huge advantage of Microsoft to be able to acquire a studio such as Take-Two with Activision Blizzard King. And, you know, if they would have went after one of these studios first, I think the Trade Commission would have pretty much let any of these go. You know, if they would have went after Take-Two first, or maybe EA first, or Activision first. I'm not a lawyer. Maybe you would have to go talk to someone like Hogue Law. But I do feel like that space and that genuine, you know, concern would start to increase when you pick up another big publisher. And at the same time, is Microsoft even trying to take that risk? They were going to lose $3 billion if this deal didn't go through in time, and they still might if, you know, they can't come to terms with the CMA. Are they willing to risk that type of money again for Take-Two? Now, obviously, they're not losing all of that money because Take-Two would actually be cheaper than Activision, Blizzard, and King. But at the same time, it's not going to be cheap. I think, you know, what we estimated would be like $50 billion, and it could be higher, could be lower. That's complete estimation. No one there really knows how that would work. You just complete estimation off of how they bought Activision. That went off a percentile, but anyway, that's not the point. You know, put in the comment section below, do you guys think Take-Two is one of those companies that Microsoft might look into? For one, think they'll go after someone smaller, you know, and preferably, you know, selfish me would like them to go after someone that I would prefer more of. Now, I will say Take-Two has more type of games that I would like to play than something like an Activision, because I don't really play a whole lot of Activision games. Take-Two would be a little bit more of a better choice for me than Activision was. But having them both together, I feel like is like two Infinity Stones in Thanos' gauntlet. And you could argue that they would be able to do a lot of damage with both of those, because at that point, Ubisoft is a shell of what it used to be. You know, I still enjoy their games to a point. EA, they're up and down here recently. I do think they've gotten better, but I do think that Take-Two, Rockstar, Activision, Blizzard, King, all of those companies together would make Xbox a force to be reckoned with. And I don't know if the FTC might have lost the Activision thing. But the thing that people aren't realizing is they're going to go into buying Take-Two with Activision in their stable. And that's a different ball game. And I don't know if they're going to be okay with that. Because it's not like they're going to them first. Yo, you just came here like a year ago and bought one of the biggest publishers. Now you want to come here and buy another one? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, not a judge. Don't know how those processes work. Put in the comment section below if you guys think this would happen. I'm very curious to hear you guys' opinion. But until next time, this is Gaming Addict. I'm out of here. Peace.